Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio everybody. What is going on? It is Galeriot here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi video. And today we're going to be able to finally talk about Sword Oratoria Volume 13. And it's not necessarily because of like, oh, it's finally out or anything of that sort. Quite the opposite, in fact, considering Sword Oratoria Volume 14 released today. It's because I can actually finally talk about it purely because I actually got around to reading the translations done by the guys over at the wiki. So big shout outs to them for getting it done, of course, and for me to finally actually read it because I know they've got it done for about 2 or 3 weeks now. I've actually been spending a lot of time obviously watching the Danmachi anime, and then of course getting stuff done in terms of Danmachi Memoria Freese as well as some university work. So it took a while for me to get around to actually reading the translations those guys did over on the wiki, but finally got to it. Now today we're going to be able to actually do a spoiler talk and actually give you guys my initial thoughts on Sword Oratoria Volume 13. I'm very excited to get into it because of course it is the follow-up to the amazing arc that we got in Sword Oratoria Volume 11 and 12. Now before we get into it, I would like to point out that this is going to be a spoiler talk video, so if you guys haven't read anything regarding Sword Oratoria or you haven't been kept up to date with the light novels, make sure to leave the page, leave the tab, don't come back until you've actually read Sword Oratoria because you don't want to get spoiled. Trust me when I say this, the story gets very interesting with volumes 11 and 12, and I'm going to be talking about those light novels including this one. So again, like I said, if you guys haven't read anything regarding Sword Oratoria, close the tab. You guys can go watch some of my other videos and whatnot, and then maybe once you guys have read Sword Oratoria, you guys can come back and watch this video, alright? But for those of you guys who are watching this video, if you guys want to enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel for more Danmachi content because I'm going to be doing a lot of light novel stuff in the next couple of days, of course. And leave a comment down below because your guys' comments will actually be featured in the next video. So effectively how I'm going to be doing this video, right, is it's not going to be too long. It's not going to be as long as the main series volume 18 one was, because that one I was going through Reddit and I was reading through a lot of the comments in the Reddit post itself, right? This video will probably be around 15 to 20 minutes long, just giving guys my thoughts on what exactly goes down in the light novel, things I liked, things I didn't really like that much but still like for the most part, and just go over what I thought about this light novel and how it kind of fits into the grand scheme of things, right? But of course I will be doing a second video to this which will be sort of like a community reaction. So of course if you guys want to be a part of that and if you guys want to get involved, leave a comment down below. I will be making a community post as well so that you guys can leave your comments in on there as well. So I'm going to be using both, and I'm going to be making a second video basically going over your guys' thoughts and just reacting to what you guys thought of this light novel. You guys might have liked it, disliked it, I don't know. You guys can leave it in the comment section so that I can read through it and maybe we can have a bit of a discussion in the community reaction video. Now, like I said, this light novel has been something I've been waiting for a very long time, purely because it's been 4 years. It has actually been 4 years since the last Sword Oratoria light novel. I should say 4 years since volume 12 in Japan. Technically it's only 3 years for us in the West, purely because the English release happened a year after the JP release, but I digress. It was still 4 years since the official original launch of the Sword Oratoria Volume 12 light novel. So in all honesty, this is something that we've been waiting for a very long time, like I said, purely because those two light novels, volumes 11 and 12, had some of Omori Sensei's best writings, in all honesty. Fantastic writing, and in all honesty it captured a lot of the fan base. I mean, it was insane storytelling and storylines, and once again I'm gonna warn people because I'm gonna just start saying spoilers from out of nowhere in just a second, but the insane events that happened, especially the death of Philvis, the revelations of Dionysus, and everything of that sort that happened in that volume was insane. In all honesty, it was actually ridiculous, to be honest, as to what happened in those two light novels. And of course, coming into volume 13, I wanted to see how obviously Lafia primarily, because of course we knew that she was going to be the cover character, we knew she was going to be the poster girl for this light novel, and how she was going to deal with the events of volumes 11 and 12. And the start of the light novel is exactly that. We are seeing her effectively dealing with the ramifications of volumes 11 and 12. She's overworking herself, she's training herself to the death, basically, training with Bet, overusing her magic even though Rivera is telling her to rest. She's going into the dungeons, consistently doing expeditions, and with the events of the main series volume 18 stuff going on at the same time as that. And remember, this is only the start, by the way. I don't know why the wiki, by the way, I'm not showing you guys the synopsis because I feel like I just read through it and that's not fun. I want to give you guys my thoughts on it, just like generally as well. But I don't know why the guys in the wiki haven't done anything for chapter 1 yet. Maybe you guys have an idea on exactly what's going on with that. Leave it in the comment section down below if you guys know exactly what's happened with chapter 1. But at the start of chapter 2, this is exactly what goes on, is that we're seeing her overworking herself and everything, and we see her also looking at Belle getting to level 5. The Hestia versus Freya familiar war game happens and everything, and it incentivizes her to work even harder, basically. So it's very interesting to see that this is the Lafia that we're getting basically at the start of the light novel, because obviously I was expecting a huge change in Lafia's personality, but I wasn't expecting her to just go into that mode of like, okay, I just need to train myself consistently, train, so that whatever happened in volumes 11 and 12 never happened again, basically, sort of situation, which was very interesting to say the least. One thing that was added as well, which I thought was a bit funny, to be quite honest, and a little bit random, but it was basically that she overworked herself to the point where she was losing weight, and as a result she had to start eating meat. And effectively, you know, elves don't like eating meat, and as a result, her chest got bigger. She became bustier, basically. I'm gonna leave a picture of an illustration on your screens right now, which I was like, oh, fair enough, she did indeed get a lot bustier, basically. It's very interesting. It is very, very interesting, to say the least, in all honesty, in terms of that sort of stuff happening. But this light novel, let's get into the meat and potatoes of it, because that was only the start. The rest of this light novel is a huge focus on Lafia, primarily, in all honesty. We don't really see much of the Loki familiar, to be quite honest. We do see them here and there. We, of course, see them at the start. We'll see them at the end. But to be quite honest, generally speaking, the main focus is on Lafia, with a secondary focus on the school district, which is where she graduated from and where she left to join the Loki familiar, basically. And of course, the school district is also a important point. No, not point, location, I suppose, purely because that is also where the main series is going to be doing its next arc, basically, I suppose. And its setting is going to be the next arc for the main series, basically, right? I think that's the best way to put it. I wasn't sure exactly how to call the school district a person, because it's not a person, it's a setting, right? So the setting of the school district is also the main series' next arc, and of course it is obviously a integral part of this arc, because one of the big things that they did in this light novel, like I said, was focus heavily on Lafia, and it sort of tackles Lafia's past as well. We get to see her going from the Wish Forest to the I was gonna say Wish Forest. I'll just call it the Wish Forest because I like calling it the Wish Forest. I know it has a proper name to it and the pronunciation is quite a bit different, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in Japanese, but I'm gonna call it the Wish Forest. The Wish Forest to then the school district, because I think she was like 8 or something, I think it was. If I recall correctly reading that, she was 8. She heard from a merchant that the school district was in the nearest port town, and as a result she got admitted there. And we get to see different characters such as Balder, Elisa, her best friend, and of course Leon as a teacher, right? And these are the 3 characters that we're going to see regularly throughout this chapter, basically, or in this light novel, I should say, as well, because what happens is that the school district is coming to Orario. Now we move back into present day. The school district is coming to Orario for 3 days, basically, and effectively this is the opportunity for where familiars can actually scout and sort of recruit new talent effectively for their familiars. And on top of that, it also gives an opportunity for these students to get some practice in the dungeon. Now this is where things got very interesting for me, because obviously we've known for a very long time that the big reason why Bell got rejected by so many familiars was because of his very naive nature, of course, right, first and foremost, and along with that, and a bigger reason in my personal opinion, was his lack of experience, right? Whereas if you look at the school district, right, and I think of course if you look at other characters as well, they've all had previous experiences with dealing with monsters or fighting, or in some way, shape, or form dealing with the surviving, potentially, dealing with surviving, basically, I think is the best way to put it. And as a result, these members get easily recruited into familiars, right? Whereas Belle, who's lived a pretty sheltered life in comparison to some of these characters, we can see why he was getting rejected continuously, and it was kind of nice to see that being doubled down on with the introduction of the school district, of course, right? Because Lafia, being a graduate from the school district, apparently classed as the best achievement in the history of the school, which I was kind of surprised by, but I can understand why, maybe to an extent. And I'll come on to why I'm a little bit surprised as to why she's the best achievement that the school has ever done. But obviously, this is a very interesting point to be made, is like you've got the school district who basically allows students to graduate from their school into familiars in Orario, and they're part of these dungeon exploring familiars basically now, right? So it's very, very interesting in that regards, and how they introduce that factor as well. And then, of course, we see Lafia being requested to basically become an instructor for the duration of the school district being there. And she's the instructor for one of the combat squads. And this is the way the school district operates. And this is something we see in Lafia's flashback sequences, basically, is the school district works in a way where they have these combat squads, basically, right? Combat squad of like 4, and then you have the instructor and stuff like that. And that's exactly what they do in this light novel, basically, is that they have Lafia being one of the instructors. At the same time, as a side thing as well, is Belle is actually leading one of the other instructor squads, funnily enough, which is something we see at the end of the light novel. We see him being revealed as somebody who's actually leading one of the combat squads. I assume that's something we will see more of in the main series and his side of the journey, I suppose. And I hope that they do start incorporating a little bit of Sword Oratoria in the main series, because so far, right, we always see the main series bleeding over into Sword Oratoria very regularly, right? But it's rare we see it do the opposite. So hopefully with this light novel, we can probably see Sword Oratoria bleed into the main series a little bit more, because, we need to see more of that happen as well, in my personal opinion. I think that needs to happen a little bit more often, right? I get why, Omori Sensei and the editors especially, I think it's more so the editors rather than Omori Sensei. I get why the editors don't want that to happen, because the main series has to be readable on its own, right? It shouldn't force the reader to read Sword Oratoria, whereas Sword Oratoria should be, used to also read the main series, right? I think that's something that, is a little bit of a thing that the editors need to get a grip on, and to be quite honest, because we need to start seeing more Sword Oratoria stuff being applied into the main series, to be quite honest. So, but that's me diverging to another entirely another topic, by the way, which if you guys want to see more on that, let me know in the comments section down below. Put some theories and stuff like that as well. Maybe I might make a sort of series called theories to Thursday or something, or Thursday theories or something, and we can have some fun with that. But let me know if you guys would like to see something like that. But yeah, no, this was very interesting to see Lafia become a sort of instructor, of course, right? And the thing I noticed in this sort of light novel, right, is that it was following a very cliche thing. In all honesty, it was following a very cliche thing of like, Lafia is basically trying to obviously deal with the ramifications of the events of volumes 11 and 12, right? And what we're seeing her do is basically retrace her steps from the past to the present, with a lot of stuff that happens in the present, being extremely similar to the events that happen in the past. We see, obviously, when Lafia comes to Orario for the first time, they do their own dungeon practice, and we get to see Lafia being scouted as well, actually. Funnily enough, this is where things got very interesting. Hayden of the Freya Familia actually scouted Lafia first, but I think it was I think it was the owner of one of the cafes or something. He basically said not to he told Lafia not to join that familia basically, and basically as a result Hayden had to just give up effectively there and then. But that was something that was very interesting to see, Lafia being a candidate, a potential scouted candidate for the Freya familia. I think that was a very interesting touch, because what changes would that have made, you know? And I can't wait to see people making potential fanfics on that. That would be very interesting to see if how people would have put Lafia into the Freya familia in that what if scenario as well. But yeah, that was something that was very interesting to see happen as well, and see how that could have turned out potentially, right? But overall, I think we got to see a lot of like Lafia just retracing her steps, trying to understand her position again, where she is, what she's doing, and where to go from here basically, right? Because obviously when she was younger, she had the same thing of like, she didn't know what she wanted to do, she didn't know where to go, and then of course she got the end result of becoming an adventurer basically, right? She got the end goal of being an adventurer, and we know where she's come to right now, right? Where she's come from and where she's reached at this point in time. So that's something that was kind of interesting to see. It was a little bit cliche, like I said. I think it was a little bit cliched, but I do think that for the most part it was something that was very interesting to definitely do, in all honesty, because it's something that actually was sort of, I think, in my personal opinion, right? Because I think there's two ways Omori Sensei could have done this. This was one of the ways, right? Going for a little bit more cliche setup, right? And the other one was just basically Lafia doing dungeon stuff, expedition stuff, and we got to see the Loki familia supporting her, which I think is great. I do think that would have been great as well. But I think, introducing a new cast of members who are obviously going to be important later on in the story for some purpose, for sure, especially considering who one of them members of the school district is, which I'll come on to in just a second. I say I come on to in a second. It's probably at the end of this video where I'll talk about it, because he only makes his main appearance at the end of this, at the end of the light novel as what he is supposed to be in his titular character, I suppose. But yeah, this is something that I feel like I think they did Omori Sensei definitely did really well, was introducing the school district, obviously, which is going to be playing a massive role apparently in the next arc for Danmachi's main series, right? And also introducing characters who will probably not only have an influence on Lafia, but probably have an influence long term as well, just generally potentially for future events that may happen. So I think that was a good decision by Omori Sensei to tackle Lafia's past more so and bring in these new cast of members rather than just going the normal route of, okay, Loki familia, go burr kind of thing, right? I think that was kind of nice for sure. But yeah, we also got to see, and this is where one of the things that I really liked about this chapter, I would say, is, and I'm gonna scroll through some of the images because I feel like it's a little bit too stagnant. But one of the cool things about this chapter was, of course, when Lafia goes to lead the combat squad, which is, of course, the members on the left. You can see, I think one of them is called Luke. I don't know the other girl's name. I keep forgetting her name. But Luke and the other girl, she's leading them, and of course, some other members as well. And Luke is effectively unimpressed by Lafia I should say more so he's unimpressed by Orario's adventures, because he thinks that Orario's adventures are just chilling in Orario while, at the outside world. And again, this is a nice touch Omori Sensei did, because while I know that the dungeon and everything is much more appreciated by everybody loves the dungeon and everybody loves Orario, I kind of want to see more of the outside world. We hear about all these familias, we hear about all these monsters in the outside world, and we've seen it a couple of times, but we've never fully seen it in its glory, usually, right? And obviously Luke mentions that, people are suffering outside of Orario, getting attacked by monsters from Dragon Valley, dragons from Dragon Valley, and other monsters as well. And it's very interesting to see that, because I do believe inevitably, while the dungeon is going to be explored, I mean, we know that, the Loki familia after the events of volume 18, of course, if you've read volume 18, you already know this, so I'm not really gonna make this thing like, oh, it's a spoiler, go away kind of thing. You should have, if you're watching this, you probably have seen the spoilers for volume 18 as well. But in volume 18, we know that the Loki familia are trying to go into the deeper dungeons, right, and stuff like that. The dungeon is still gonna play a part in it, but I do believe, like, at a point we're gonna start seeing a lot more of the outside world, in all honesty, the outside Orario stuff, for sure. At least that's my personal belief. I think we're gonna start seeing more of it. We've been starting to get more mentions of other familiars, like Poseidon. Athena has been mentioned recently, I think, if I'm not mistaken. We've gotten mentions of so many other familiars, and it's just like, we're bound to get something very, very soon. So for me personally, I think, this was a great opportunity to, blend in Orario and the outside world really well, with the use of the school district as well. Again, one of the good reasons of them introducing the school district rather than just going down the Loki familiar go burr route again for the 90th time, basically, right? So I think that was cool, of course. And I think, of course, we get to see generally more towards the end of this light novel. It was pretty much just a case of like, okay, there's some problems in the dungeon, the Goliath makes his appearance, Lafia's facing it off and all that jazz, and it becomes a sort of situation of where Lafia's just having to step up effectively, which I think is good, because this is where I want to talk a little bit about Lafia, right? Lafia is one of those characters, like Hestia, like Freya, and so many other just generally anime characters, where her first impression left a huge negative reaction from the fan base. Nobody really liked Lafia that much outside of a couple of her fans, right? Her die-hard fan base, I suppose, right? And I'm one of them. I didn't like Lafia that much at the start of the series, and I mean, especially if you're an anime only, you still probably don't like her that much, because Sword Oratoria was a huge flop, let's be real, in terms of anime format. Of course, I have a video talking about why it failed, which you can go watch, by the way. Cheeky plug. But no, we know that anime onlys definitely don't like Lafia. We know that the light novel readers are growing to like Lafia a little bit, but generally speaking, Lafia still gets a little bit of hate, I feel, purely because our subconscious thinks of that first impression we had of her. But when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, right, when you think about it neutrally, Lafia's probably gotten one of the best character developments, if not the best character development in Danmachi, to be quite honest. I genuinely believe Omori Sensei has a thing for these elves. I'm not gonna lie. Ryu in the main series and now Lafia, I'm just saying there's something fishy on there, mate. I'm watching you, Omori Sensei. I'm watching you. But no, on a real though, coming back to the point, what I want to make, right, is that yeah, Lafia has gotten some of the best character development. No matter what anybody says, probably one of the best, if not the best character development. And she's grown into being a somewhat likable character now. I am starting to like her a little bit more and more. Even though she still has her flaws and her issues. We see at the end of the light novel, she still bickers with Belle. She's still arguing with Belle, calling him a rabbit in heat, of course, right? And so on and so forth. But for me personally, right, as much as I think that she could kind of tone it down a bit, it also is something that is fine with me, in all honesty, because it's not like she's like this perfect cold character or anything of that sort. Obviously she could have become a cold-hearted, very quiet, very soft character after the events of volumes 11 and 12, but that wouldn't have been Lafia, right? She is now getting to a point where she's dedicated, but she's still able to be a positive, well, I wouldn't say happy is the right word here, but a very still smiling character. I mean, as you can see here, when she's with Elisa and stuff like that, I think stuff like that is really, really nice to see, and it still gives her a little bit of character, and it gives her a bit of a character, even though she may bicker with RMC and stuff like that. I think that's still fine with me, to be quite honest. And she isn't like the old annoying self of like, oh, Belle is bad, oh, I need to stick to eyes and stuff like that. No, she's improved, she's evolved, she's evolving, and it's a character that will evolve over time as well. And I mean, if I have to look at other characters like Lafia, I mean, Hestia is a perfect example of really meh character, has grown to become a somewhat decent character, but still people think of her as that annoying character. Same with Lafia. And personally, this is something that is a personal experience of mine. I don't know about you guys, but Sasuke from Naruto, and I'm gonna go into a little bit of a detour here, but Sasuke from Naruto is a very similar character to Lafia in the sense of, and this is where it's a little bit of a reach, but let me explain. So Sasuke is a character that I personally didn't like when I first saw him, and I still didn't like him throughout his whole Avenger shenanigans and stuff like that. And of course, while he had an amazing development as a character, right? From the Avenger moment to then the whole situation with Itachi, and then of course Konoha and stuff like that. The Naruto versus Sasuke part at the end was the big black mark for me. I don't know what Kishimoto was thinking there. I know that he wanted to do a final Naruto versus Sasuke fight, but I felt that Sasuke at the end was a little bit too extra, I'm not gonna lie, when he was like, oh, I'm just gonna destroy all the Nine Tails, I'm gonna destroy all the Kages, because screw y'all. And I was like, brother, chill, champ, chill. That's enough, bro. But then of course he became more mellowed out. He's, you know, married to Sakura and all that jazz, and he's become a good character, right? And he's evolved, and I would say he's got a good development as a character, but I'm not the biggest fan of him, right? I'll still say I prefer Naruto, I prefer XYZ character compared to Sasuke, because my first impression of him was negative. I didn't like him as a character, I didn't like him as a individual. So it's a similar thing here, I feel, where it's like I appreciate the development and I'm liking you a little bit more, but you still had a very bad first impression, and I think that's what a lot of people have with Lafia, right? But I would suggest trying to look at her from a neutral perspective, because she's definitely stepping up, man. Towards the end of this light novel, with what she does and how she's able to finally step up and, you know, deal with the obviously the ramifications of volumes 11 and 12 is really well done. I think volume 13 was well done in terms of getting Lafia to a point where I like her. This is a good direction for Lafia. I think if they continue on with you know, in keeping Lafia in the story, right, especially if she starts popping into the main series a lot more and stuff like that, I wouldn't mind this Lafia whatsoever, in all honesty. I mean, I guess the short hair did something, I suppose. I guess the short hair did do something, I suppose. But yeah, no, really good job there on that front. And then of course I want to talk about I think this would be the last thing I talk about, because I don't know if there's anything else I really want to mention in terms of what happens in the story. I'm just going to scroll through the synopsis later on, just in this video itself, to just see if I missed out on anything. But of course, we need to talk about the character in the middle right here, Leon, the Knight of the Knights, the other level 7 in the world. Yes, we finally see him. We finally get to see the other level 7 of the world. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't imagine him to look like this. I'm not gonna lie, I did not imagine Leon to look like this, to be quite honest, or the Knight of the Knights to look like this. It's interesting that they've given Leon the level 7 role. Omori Sensei went with Leon and the teacher of, you know, the school district to be a level 7. It's very, very interesting, because if we take a look at the synopsis, right, I think at the end, if we go down, if you go down here, Ice calls him the Knight of the Knights. So yeah, Leon does seem to be the level 7, it seems like. So it's very interesting. It is very interesting that they've gone with Leon as the level 7. It's one of the reasons why I said we're definitely going to see more of it, more of the school district in its entirety in the future, to be quite honest. So it's a good time to set it up, especially as we're approaching towards the end of the main series as well, right? Like I said multiple times in different videos, you know, Omori Sensei did say that the 14th light novel, that he was halfway done with the story. So I expect to see Leon in the near future, and I think introducing them now is a great opportunity to start working towards that end goal, of course, right? Because we're going to start needing to see some of these characters grow, and obviously characters like Leon, obviously Otaro is, you know, running about now, especially after the Freya Familia stuff and whatnot. I think it's a good opportunity for them to actually, you know, start introducing these characters for sure. Absolutely. Like I said, a bit weird in terms of the design. I wasn't expecting it, but I will take it. It at least is like it's like a tale of two halves, basically. Like, you've got Otaro, that big boar like guy, basically, right? I don't know what to call him, man, but that muscly dude. And then you have Leon, this more, you know, slimmer, more trimmer sort of stature, effectively, right? So it's a bit interesting in that regards how you know, Omori Sensei decided to go with Leon's design for sure. But yeah, I think with that, I don't know if I have anything else to mention, of course, right, in terms of the story. I think generally, right, when it comes to the whole situation and everything. I think they did a good job in portraying Lefia's past, and obviously how she's dealing with the death of Philvis, of course, in the storyline. And it's a good way to follow up on volume 12, to be quite honest. The only thing I would have liked to see a little bit more of, I think, in this light novel, and this is where I'd say my small nitpicks come in. I would say maybe it could be called major nitpicks, I would say, potentially by some people, but I wish we could see a little bit more of the ramifications, of course, of what Dionysus did, and of course all of that jazz potentially, right? I think that could have been a little bit better potentially, right? But I still think that this is really good because it goes to it shows a lot more of Lefia's development as a character, more so than anything else, along with the introduction of the school district, for sure. So I think for that purpose alone, I think this is really, really good, and I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say down below in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. I'm very curious to see if you guys liked it, disliked it. Let me know in the comments section. Like I said, I will be doing a community reaction to this light novel volume. Yeah, light novel volume. I was gonna say chapter for some reason, but let me know what you guys thought about this light novel volume down below in the comments. I will be doing a community reaction in the next couple of days. Check out the community post, comment down below on this video, and I'll make a video in the next couple of days. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please be sure to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy, everybody. Bye bye.